Welcome, Cardinal fans, to another edition of Inside the Cardinal Playbook. And as always, I've got Coach Kruse here. We're going to talk a little bit about the game against S&T and start off with that. And we couldn't have got off to a better start and instantly got a turnover. And you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's a nice situation to be in. Nick Messer played a nice underneath drop underneath the route and intercepted it and returned it to the 1 yard line. And we ran the offense out there in one play. Glenn Whitney runs it in for a score. So, that's kind of how you draw it up. You wish those things happened every game. So that was a nice way to get started the game, and a lot of momentum and stuff going forward there.
Well, Messer has really done a good job. That's his third interception, I believe, on the year.
I think that puts him fourth or fifth in the conference.
Yeah, he does a great job on his drops. There's a kid, start off the show a little bit, there's a kid that's really improved this year.
Yeah, he's doing some good things in the passing game especially. There's still some things in the run game as he grows and matures. As you know, there's a lot of different things to see in the run game at times, especially when you're playing that middle backer position, and you're playing both in the pass game and in the run game, and some of the schemes that we play. It's the comfort level of knowing what you're seeing and reacting to it that he'll continue to get better at. But, those are big-time plays when you can get, that kind of production in the passing game from your Mike linebacker.
Well, one thing, you sometimes speak to me with forked tongue because you don't want to let anything out of the bag, but there's one thing you told me from Monday, and we've talked a couple times before the ball game. Their front seven was salty.
Yeah.
I really thought up front they were as good, if not better, than Indianapolis and Truman, and I thought they were two of the better teams you played.
Yeah, I think combination of their personnel and what they do in their scheme. I think those things, I'd say you're spot on there. It just makes it really difficult about how they blend their scheme into their personnel to know where they're going to be. Now, they've played some different folks this year, and they've missed a few gaps, and some people have hit some big plays on them. But they were very disciplined on Saturday when they played us, and didn't have a lot of those situations.
Well, the other thing I saw a great improvement on this week, and I have the last 3 weeks, and I was somewhat critical, if not critical, about your front seven defensively. Yeah. And we talked about in the coaches show the last 2 or 3 weeks, definitely improvement. Again, I don't know if I could stress enough when you're playing with kids that are redshirt freshmen and sophomores, and they're playing against guys that are 4 and 5 year starters. There's such a
growth curve.
Physical difference.
There's, where we talk about it, in defensive meetings all the time now is, those guys that are playing better up front, your Austin Dosses and your Robert Hurds, and, our linebackers continuing to grow is, hey, we're finally to a point in the season by plays played. They're sophomores and juniors. You look at Austin Doss and Robert Hurd, they're playing almost every snap.
Right.
Some games, and usually you rotate your defensive line, and so if you just talk about sheer plays played, they're sneaking up into that junior season now towards the end of the year where they've had that kind of experience now and understand what they're seeing and feeling. The game's slowing down for them, which is, it's part of the growth process, and you hope you don't have to go through it, but everybody does, and we're going through it in a big way because of where we are and a lot of things.
Well, aren't you excited about that a little bit, though?
I'm
glad you brought Hurd and Doss up, because those are two guys, and then I brought up Messer already. We talked about that and the growth at your linebackers position too, and that's why I said the front seven. You got to be so much excited about the kids you're going to have coming back next year that have gotten this playing experience.
Yeah, I think that's tremendous. I mean, you can't replicate live reps, and so the more that they can get, the better it is for us going forward, and knowing that, that front seven's all young. And on the defensive line, really young. It's a comforting thing for us going forward. We hope that finishing out the season here that we'll continue to start to see improvement. Continue to see improvement from those guys that's starting to play like older players.
Yeah, I see a big difference from, like I said, the beginning of the year, on both sides of the ball. And obviously that's what you want, is to see improvement, And again, not just defensively, but offensively. I see offensively some things too. Once again, though, we get started, and Sean gets hurt right off the get-go. And that, people don't realize, but when you practice all week and game plan, and one guy you're slated to have being there number one immediately gets hurt, you want to talk about that a little bit?
And also with Sean, when he's the guy that's been your starter for 4 seasons and has that kind of, experience under his belt, that's, that's a hard thing to swallow sometimes. Tribute to him, and DJ came in and did some things for a couple series there, but Sean, gutted it out and got back in the game and did some good things. Was he 100%? No, far from it, but you're not going to keep a guy like that off the field, down the stretch in his senior season, and so I'm proud of, the wherewithal he had to gut it out and finish the game for us, and we're hoping that we can get him, functional for this week and have a little bit more of his, repertoire of things that he can do available.
We talked about how well Cook played against Quincy. They really game planned to shut him down this week.
I think they just, if you looked at it, we struggled in a lot of different areas there, and we physically got beat up front. And Thomas is a really good player when he can get to the line of scrimmage and see and make some cuts off some things. He's not, different than maybe Derek or Glenn. He's not that go bang it downhill. That's just not the type of back he is, or really in the back that we really don't expect him to be quite that guy. He's the guy that's going to get you the big plays, and he'll stick it in there at times too, don't get me wrong, but he's going to press the line of scrimmage and find a cut at the line of scrimmage and be able to go and get you 7, 8, 10, 12, 50 yards off of that. And we never had the ability to get him to the line of scrimmage on Saturday because of their front and how they were playing some things on their defensive front seven.
Well, we'll come back in the next segment of Inside the Cardinal Playbook, and we'll talk a little bit about last week's game and get into probably the game plan just a tad here coming up this Saturday against Kentucky Wesleyan. We'll be right back with you.
Balazs has it down. Kick is up. It's low, but has distance, and it is good!
All right! Great job by Favorite. Great job!
Down in Alabama, the Elite Eight, scoring the game winner off a corner that Justin Deck played in is probably the biggest memory that I'll ever take away from Dual.
Well, I'm trying to glorify God with my game.
At Shelter Insurance, we're people who know that the first love of your life
I need you to take the screws off.
might have been made of steel.
Thank you.
Shelter Insurance. For your auto, home, and life, we're your shield. We're your shelter.
Ask Agent Kimberly Sidden about Shelter's auto insurance discounts.
Welcome back, Cardinal fans, to this segment of Inside the Cardinal Playbook, Coach. And I'd like to start out a little bit talking about our offensive line. You've got Senior Day. That's how I want to start this. Senior Day, you got a couple guys that started for you on the offensive line that will be gone, that were seniors for you. Defensively, you don't have anybody but Bessonet, and that's the only one. So we'll talk a little bit about
the starters.
the starters.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about your offensive line, how you have kind of a combination of older guys and younger guys.
Yeah, the right side and Billy and Jake Hartley, those guys are seniors for us, and it seems like yesterday that Jake was just getting started and Billy was a transfer from Northwest Missouri State. And you get to the center and you go redshirt freshman, and you get to the left guard and you go sophomore and redshirt sophomore, and got a lot of youth mixed in there.
You really do. You have a combination of the two.
Yeah, and that's it's the way it works out with the transition and some of those things, and being able to redshirt some guys and start that process here a couple years ago. So. Those guys are still, we haven't talked about him much this year, but Jake Holloman, our center, playing, one of the toughest positions on the offensive side of the ball, because all the things you need to be able to see and recognize and communicate and understand. And he comes in as a redshirt freshman this year, not playing in college football snap, and is, played about every snap for us at the center position. And that's a tough thing to do. So, the growth that he's getting right now is priceless for us going forward. And then, Logan Winter, having started a few games for us in a similar situation as a true freshman last year.
I remember that, yeah.
Is getting a lot of growth. And then Brandon Kluwer, battling through some injuries early in the season, and getting him back and getting him rolling too has been good for us. And the cohesion of that center to left side for us going forward will be big.
Yeah, it really you kind of can build your team on your quarterback and your offensive
Yep.
line a little bit. And,
Yep.
well, you've got a great running back in Cook.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's the name of the game. Talk about specialty teams a little bit. Were you satisfied with this week's performance? Anybody specifically sticks out for you?
You know, our kickoff coverage was fantastic. You know, we did some tremendous things. Well, fortunate thing, we only got a chance to do it twice. But, you know, our punt game, our punting was okay. You know, Zane comes in the second quarter and hits one, but then hit a couple of really nice ones. You know, we would have liked to have been a little bit better on our coverage unit on our punt team. We gave up a lot of field position. We gave up a couple of returns, and you know, there's some officiating things that you worry about. You know, blocks in different parts of the body that you wish wouldn't happen there too. But we've got to get the ball on the ground better there. You know, our kickoff return schemes continue to be solid, and we're seeing some good things from that. So, you know, always something to look at when you talk about that many different units in the special teams areas that you can spend some time to correct some things, and we'll continue to do that this week. So, you know, overall, was it a poor performance? No. I would say Coach Weigel would sit here and tell you it was less than what we expect to the standards we've set, you know, in those different units on special teams and some things we did on Saturday. So we'll continue to work at that this week in practice and have it ready to go for this week's game.
Well, you look at your special teams and go right down. You're awfully young on special teams too. You're playing a lot of the backups kids that are redshirt freshmen or sophomores max.
Right, or even front line guys. But you know, when you're a young team,
you're
going to be young on special teams, and so. You know, but you look at where we rank in the conference in our special teams units. We're basically middle to top of the conference in all of them, essentially. So that's continued to be a strength, you know, throughout the course of the season, in the last several seasons for us.
Well, I always talk about no room for error.
Yeah.
You know, and stress to the Cardinal fans, and I use the punt team, our coverage team, for example. We can't afford to give up yardage like that because it's a issue that you have to be solid. And when we talk about this every day in the game of football, but you have to be solid in all three.
No doubt.
You don't really have a fine line, do you, Coach,
Nope.
for any error there?
No, you know, that's the one team, your punt team, because, you know, the opposing team, the punt block or punt return unit, can score in so many different ways, right? You can block a punt, scoop and score, recover it for a touchdown, or return it for a touchdown. So, you know, it's an interesting snap in our game is that you can score a couple different ways, and so there's so many different things and dynamic of players that you have to, you know, have on that unit to protect against not in protection and the block punt for a touchdown, and then be able to cover and be a defender and tackle and make plays in space to prevent a touchdown in the return game. So it's. You know, it's one that's a tough one for everybody in college football and football in general.
You bet. You know, you look at that time spent.
Yep.
Why don't you explain to the Cardinal fans how you try to break up a practice with the three phases of the game?
Yeah, you know, for us, we spend a lot of time with our special teams units. We'll start practice out with that and then hit it at 10 to 15 minute segments, different segments throughout practice. And so you blend those special teams into practice like, you know, they're blended into a game. And, you know, generally for us, we'll focus on, you know, two of the mains each day, which would be your kickoff and your punt team and your return units on both punt and kickoff return. And then, you know, blending in also our PAT field goal units and our PAT block units and, you know, mix those throughout the week of practice. And then Thursday practices, we hit them all. And then Friday practice, we do a mock scrimmage type situation where, you know, it's a 25-play script with a lot of special team snaps on it. Things like, you know, and you don't think about this, but the difference in, you know, kicking off after a safety and then kickoff return after a safety and the lineman. How about backed up punt? How about, you know, all the different situations that can arise. So if those ever come up in a game, that you're ready for them and you've covered them very thoroughly with your team.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't really realize it just doesn't happen. You actually work on it.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah. Well, we'll come back in our final segment. We'll talk a little bit about Kentucky Wesleyan in this week's game. Now, is it at noon
It is a 1 o'clock kick.
1 o'clock
in
kick.
Owensboro, Kentucky.
Okay, so
Yeah,
it is a
Central
1 o'clock.
Standard Time. Yep.
Because
1
I was
o'clock
trying to
kick.
make sure I got that right. Because when we start getting over there on the border, it's kind of hard to figure that out.
Exactly.
Okay, well, we'll be right back with you with that segment. We'll talk about Saturday's ball game down there.
If y'all gonna be great on that field, you gotta have a why. You gotta have a reason for why you do what you do. I'm about to come here and blaze y'all. Follow my lead, baby, and we gonna win this thing. What's your why? Why do you wake up in the morning? Why do you put on that jersey? Why do you go out and practice? I ain't about to miss this opportunity.
Before the game or after the game, it's Poor Boy Oil Company for your pre- and post-game food and beverage. ConocoPhillips and BP Amoco Fuels get you to the game, and our large vendors give you great food and beverage choices before or after the game. Our small-town roots and family value philosophies help us to maintain the highest standards in customer service and value. Poor Boy Oil Company. Find us around the Northland, wherever the Cardinals fly.
Franklin on the side, and a chance for the Cardinals, and the shot is into the corner, and the Cardinals lead 1-0.
Well, Coach, it's good to have you back on Inside the Cardinal Playbook for the third segment. I know you had a big one yesterday against Truman State. Why don't you talk about that? I know you're satisfied because we got to talk a little bit before we got on air. You're pretty satisfied with the play and the effort of the kids, but why don't you give a quick synopsis of the ball game?
Well, our women's team qualified for the GLVC championships, and we played at Truman State in the first round of the playoffs. We didn't win the game. We lost 2-1. Truman State scored late, but it was still good just to see. We've had the women's team has played, been very competitive, gained really good results, winning a lot of games, and we've played really well the past 3 weeks. We've been getting healthier every week, and actually our playoff game at Truman was the healthiest we've been since the second game of the season. We actually had an injury late in that game, but still. The effort was very good. Attitude was good. It was unfortunate that we lost. Truman State's a good team, but it was a game we could have won, and it really was a good college playoff game. Both teams had a lot of energy. The fans on both sides got to cheer during the game, and it feels bad having the season over, but the ladies did give a good effort throughout the season.
How many seniors you got on that squad?
We have 9 seniors, I want to say, on the team, so a lot.
So how many young kids did you play this year?
Yeah, we started
5
5 seniors, so everyone got to play some, but we had 5 seniors that started and played a lot, and we're going to miss them for sure. But we've got a lot of very good young ones as well.
Well, let's talk a little bit about recruiting. That kind of be a segue in. Season is over for both the men and the women. Yeah. So talk about where you're going to go for both programs. This kind of opens up for both programs, not just the women. Talk a little bit about recruiting soccer in this area and what you go through.
Soccer recruiting for men and women is incredibly intense. People probably be surprised how intense it is. I really do love doing it. We have many players committed for next year already on the men's and women's team. I don't think I'm allowed to say.
No, I know you're not.
Their names, but we have a lot of very good players.
Just talking generally, I know.
We have good players who are committed to come here next year, and we're excited about that on both the men's and women's teams. But it's one of those things to where it's always, I had calls today about players, and I'll contact players today about players. But I do. It really is 24/7, 365 days a year. Recruiting is going on. People think that's crazy, but that's the way it works. So it's fun. It's great giving people opportunities to come to William Jewell College.
How do you rate, as far as our area, as far as local kids, the opportunity to come to William Jewell, for example? And I know the first week in February or second week in February is signing date and all that. But, as far as a hotbed for soccer, how do you feel locally we're shaping up compared to a lot of places? I realize it's not like St. Louis, where, soccer is probably one of the key places.
It's St. Louis, and we have players committed from those areas and other areas as well. And we have currently players on our team from St. Louis. But really, Kansas City is becoming one of the nation's hotspots for players. And even people in St. Louis will tell you that Kansas City, within the past 10 years, has been catching up in some regards, passing St. Louis, which is a huge deal.
It is, because I'm old school at the high school level, and I've been out 6 years now. That is interesting.
Yeah, both my parents went to high school in St. Louis, and my dad, who graduated high school in 1954, played high school soccer. And there'll be people in St. Louis that will tell you they played on the national champion grade school team and stuff like that way back when.
Right.
And they're serious. They mean it. And so that's what you have going there. There's a lot of great tradition, obviously, in St. Louis, and Kansas City now has a lot of great tradition. Obviously, we have Major League Soccer here in Kansas City, which St. Louis doesn't have. And we have the NWSL, which is the top women's professional league. We have a team here in Kansas City, which St. Louis doesn't have. So I think because of that, Kansas City is getting a lot more exposure at high levels that some of these youth players in the city can get. And we've got a lot of good ones on our team roster here at William Jewell College as well.
So you kind of feel a tribute to the popularity in the Kansas City area to our local professional teams, and really I see it too. I really see it at the younger levels too, Coach. Am I right there?
Yes, and I'm myself a little bit of a product of it. My dad grew up playing soccer, but he was a big baseball guy too. And but when I grew up was when the Kansas City Comets indoor team they came in 1981, and I was 10 years old at the time, and I was already playing soccer. I was in the Children of Pelé era when Pelé came to play for the Cosmos, and this huge soccer popularity grew in the United States. I was really kind of a part of that, and then it got bolstered when the Comets came in, and then that helped me and a lot of my friends. Really, the sport grew in Kansas City even more. Then when the Wizards came in, now called Sporting KC, it's also helped it grow continuously. It's been great.
Yeah, I've been over that stadium. It's quite a culture when they play too. I mean, if a young person that's interested in soccer goes over there, they're going to get excited.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
Well, recruiting is not exact science, and this generally talking again. I know you have all the NCAA rules and stuff, but what do you look for in a player?
I look for the best soccer student athletes I can get. The only time where it's position specific is really goalkeeper. Besides that, I look for great student athletes, great people. And if someone's a very good player and a great student, I want them here at William Jewell College. I know they're going to be able to be successful. I know they're going to work hard, have a lot of pride, be coachable, and they're going to have a lot of success here. So people will ask, are you trying to look for a certain position? I'm looking for a good soccer player, good student athlete. And we think we have one of the best soccer academic programs in the nation at any level.
Well, there's no question about the academics here, right?
We've won, we've had Scholar All-Americans, Scholar All-Region players. Our men's and women's team have won the National Coaches Association Team Academic Award the last 6 years. So we have outstanding student athletes who get great GPAs and graduate, and that's what it's all about.
That is what it's all about. It is making young people better as far as life lessons are concerned, Coach. You do a great job of that. Congratulations on your season. Good luck to you. And that'll finish this segment of Inside the Cardinal Playbook. We'll come back with the final segment with Coach Kruse and talk a little bit about the game against Kentucky Wesleyan on Saturday.
I am a helpful smile in seafood.
We have more fresh fish flown in daily from the dock to my case in 2 days.
Hy-Vee's one of the only retailers in the nation with their own USDC seafood inspector.
We've got amazing seafood from all around the world. King crab flown in from the Bering Sea.
We catch fish and shrimp right out of Louisiana.
Oh yeah, this is fresh.
Look at it.
I am a helpful,
sustainable,
USDC inspected,
2 days flown in fresh smile.
And that's my promise.
Cardinal fans, welcome back to the last segment of Inside the Cardinal Playbook. And we're going to talk about Saturday's 1 o'clock start down at Kentucky Wesleyan, a conference ball game. An opportunity I think we have to get another victory. They played well against Truman State. We talked about that Saturday night after your game over at your place. And what are we looking at with Wesleyan? We've gotten them the last 2 years, and we've been fortunate enough to beat them.
Yeah, they've struggled from a record standpoint this year, but it seems like in years past, we played them the last 2 years and been fortunate enough to beat them. But, in years past, they've struggled from a record standpoint. But when we go in and play them, it's a dogfight. It's been a one-score game.
Yeah.
And
we had a great game down there last time we went down there.
Yeah, 2 years ago, and it's come down to the very end of the game both times we've played them. And so, it'll be a challenging day for us. Right now, we've got to focus on a lot of things that we've got to get right. amongst what we do. And they'll give you some challenges. They throw the ball around pretty well offensively, and got a senior quarterback that they'll throw it down the field. And they've got a couple receivers now that can play, that are actually some of the top guys in our conference for sure, but making some noise in the country too in the return games. One of them had a kickoff return for a touchdown last week against Truman, and they're averaging some big-time yardage in the return schemes. So that'll be a challenge for us from that standpoint. And then defensively, they give you some different looks, and primarily a 4-3 base, but we'll mix some different coverage concepts in and try and confuse you in some ways there. So we've got to be sound in our approach in every area. And again, I talked about the returners, and some of the different threats they have in their return games. So in special teams, our coverage units are going to have to play very well this weekend for us to be successful.
Well, Coach, I think I really have seen some improvement in this conference this year in the game of football.
Yeah.
My background's with the MIAA, and of course I'm a Northwest Missouri State guy, so and I think that's one of the best conferences in the nation. But I see growth, don't you, as far as this football conference? I don't see anybody sliding.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. For everybody we played this year, I've seen growth on every team that we've played as far as you look at their roster from the year before and, just where they're at in their schemes from the year before. And I think a lot of that is because a lot of the teams in this conference are, new. I would, from us and McKendree and Quincy and all making that transition, even though Quincy was a Division II team for a lot of years, making that transition back to that level, and St. Joseph's getting in a conference that's more stable and some of those things. And you wish sometimes that you'd see some teams slide a little bit, but I say that you're just week in and week out, you're going to see great competition. And the teams that are on top of the conference are the ones that you look at it that have been there for a long time. In Indianapolis and Truman's been at this level of play for a long time, and they're doing some good things, and so that's where we're all chasing right now, and it's great for our conference as a whole that we see continued growth.
Talking about Lincoln and Southwest Baptist coming in too, everybody says, well, they had trouble winning MIAA, but we went down 3 or 4, maybe 5 years ago, 4 years ago, and played Southwest Baptist. Good ball club.
Yeah.
These teams coming in are not going to be cakewalks by any stretch of the imagination.
No, they're going out and beating some teams, and I saw some Lincoln scores early in the year, and I know they beat maybe a 1AA in Arrowhead or a Division I school, and beat some other teams, and so boy, sounds like they're on the upswing as well with some of those teams coming in. But regardless, right now it's good for our conference from the standpoint of adding 2 more teams and being able to solidify the conference, from an 8-team conference to a 9-team conference. So that'll be big for us.
I really think that probably you're going to see, you look at the entire conference, but it looks to me like a lot of Missouri teams are starting to come in. I was talking to somebody the other day. This is just speculation on my part. So your administration doesn't have to go bonkers. This is I do have an opinion. I am a human being. I look for Missouri Southern even to maybe consider coming in sometime. I know they've been a pretty competitive member of the MIAA, but I think it's looking more and more like everybody's kind of figuring out where can we compete, where can we be successful.
Yeah, I think that's maybe part of it. I think, but from our conference standpoint, I don't know about Missouri Southern, and I think our conference looks pretty highly on where your academics are at, as well as far as what level are those things from that side of it too, because they want to. If you look at our conference, there's a lot more higher academic. Not all privates, but even Truman State's a higher academic.
The academic thing is an issue.
Southwest Baptist is a private.
Totally get it.
So that dynamic in conference, I don't, necessarily. But who knows? Who knows where it goes going forward from that standpoint? But we'll all wait and see. I know that we'd love to get to a 10, 11, 12-team conference. So
makes it a lot easier.
The scheduling part of it from the non-conference is a whole lot easier from that standpoint.
Yeah, it really is. It's because you know where you're traveling out, and when you have to get a non-conference, when you go to South Dakota Tech, or wherever you're going to go, it's a trip.
Right.
Well, Coach, good luck.
Thank you.
We need to get another conference victory on Saturday. That's a 1:00 start. at Kentucky Wesleyan. Hopefully all the Jewel fans will listen. Rick will be on the air with Mark, and they'll be able to bring you the play-by-play, and hopefully it's bringing home a victory because it's a long ways from home.
It'll be a lot easier ride home, I know that.
You betcha. Well, good luck on Saturday.
Thank you.
That finishes this Inside the Cardinal Playbook.